Dr. Chen shows me brain scans comparing the sleep patterns of chronic overthinkers with people who don't struggle with racing thoughts. What we discovered is that anxious brains don't just have trouble falling asleep, she explains. Their entire sleep structure is different. They spend less time in deep sleep phases and more time in lighter sleep stages, where the mind is still partially active. This explains why traditional sleep hygiene advice falls flat for people whose minds won't stop racing. All those recommendations about room temperature, avoiding screens, and establishing bedtime routines assume that the main barrier to sleep is physical discomfort or environmental disruption. But for overthinkers, the barrier is neurological. Their brains have become conditioned to stay alert and vigilant, treating bedtime as just another opportunity to process information and solve problems. The breakthrough findings about REM sleep and emotional processing have changed everything Dr. Chen thought she knew about anxiety treatment. During REM sleep, the brain processes emotional experiences from the day and integrates them into long-term memory. But people with chronic overthinking spend significantly less time in REM sleep, which means their brains never properly process daily emotional content. Instead of filing away the day's experiences during sleep, their brains keep them active and accessible, Dr. Chen explains. So when they wake up, they're carrying unprocessed emotional residue from previous days, weeks, even months. Dr. Chen tells me about Amanda, a teacher who had struggled with insomnia for 2 years. Amanda tried every sleep recommendation she could find. She bought a cooling mattress, installed blackout blinds, eliminated caffeine after 2 p.m., and followed a strict bedtime routine. Nothing worked. She would lie awake until 3 a.m., then wake up exhausted and anxious. Amanda was doing everything right according to traditional sleep advice, but she was still approaching sleep like a physical problem that needed physical solutions, Dr. Chen recalls. The transformation happened when Amanda changed just one thing about her sleep routine, but it wasn't anything physical. Instead of trying to quiet her mind or force herself to stop thinking, Amanda started what Dr. Chen calls cognitive offloading an hour before bed. She would write down every thought, worry, or mental note that was circulating in her head, not to solve them or analyze them, but simply to get them out of her active mental workspace. Within a week, Amanda was falling asleep within 20 minutes, Dr. Chen says. Her brain finally understood that bedtime was for rest, not for problem solving. The mystery of why some people can fall asleep anywhere, while others lie awake for hours, comes down to what Dr. Chen calls cognitive flexibility around rest. Some people naturally maintain a clear distinction between active thinking time and rest time. Their brains have preserved the ability to shift into a non-analytical mode when it's time to sleep. But chronic overthinkers have lost this ability. Their brains treat every moment of quiet as an opportunity to think through problems, make plans, or review the day's events. This is where the concept of cognitive sleep preparation becomes crucial, as opposed to physical sleep preparation. Most sleep advice focuses on preparing your body for rest by controlling environmental factors, but Dr. Chen's research shows that preparing your mind is far more important for people with anxiety. Your brain needs to know that its job is done for the day, she explains. If you haven't given it permission to stop working, it will keep working whether you want it to or not. The technique sounds almost too simple to work, but the results are remarkable. You spend 5 minutes before bed acknowledging 3 things: what your brain accomplished today, what it's worried about, and what it can stop thinking about until tomorrow. You're essentially having a conversation with your mind like you would with a dedicated employee, Dr. Chen explains. You acknowledge their hard work, address their concerns, and give them clear instructions about when to clock out. The specific sleep timing strategy that reduces next-day anxiety involves something Dr. Chen calls anxiety debt prevention. Most people think about sleep as recovery time for their bodies, but she's discovered that sleep timing affects how your brain processes worry and stress. When you consistently go to bed at the same time and get adequate REM sleep, your brain can properly file away daily concerns instead of carrying them forward to the next day. The key is maintaining what Dr. Chen calls emotional sleep hygiene. This means going to bed before your anxiety peaks for the day, which for most people is between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. If you stay up past this window, your stress hormones start rising again, making it much harder to fall asleep and significantly more likely that you'll wake up with anxiety. People who follow this timing consistently report that their morning anxiety decreases dramatically because their brains actually process the previous day's emotional content instead of stockpiling it. But even when people master these sleep techniques and start getting better rest, Dr. Chen noticed something unexpected. Many of her patients would come back to sessions feeling frustrated because well-meaning friends and family members kept giving them advice that somehow made their anxiety worse, not better. The most common suggestion people received was also the most counterproductive. Why positive thinking makes everything worse? That suggestion was to just think positively, and Dr. Chen has discovered it's actually making people's anxiety significantly worse. I have patients who come in feeling guilty because they can't maintain a positive attitude, she explains. They've been told by friends, family, and even other therapists that they just need to think more positively. But every time they try, they end up feeling more anxious and more broken. The psychology behind why affirmations backfire for anxious minds is rooted in something called cognitive dissonance. When you're struggling with genuine worry or fear, and someone tells you to repeat, "I am calm and confident," your brain immediately starts generating evidence for why that statement isn't true. Dr. Chen explains that anxious minds are already hypervigilant about detecting threats and inconsistencies, so when you try to override genuine emotions with forced positive statements, you're essentially creating an internal argument. Your brain starts listing all the reasons why you're not calm and confident, she says. Instead of reducing anxiety, you've just given your mind more material to worry about. Research on forced positivity reveals something that most people don't realize. Suppressing negative emotions actually increases their intensity and duration. When you tell yourself you should be grateful instead of anxious, or that you should focus on the positive instead of acknowledging legitimate concerns, you're not eliminating the difficult emotions. You're just adding shame and self-judgment on top of them. Dr. Chen points to studies showing that people who engage in regular positive thinking exercises report higher levels of rumination and self-criticism than those who allow themselves to experience emotions without judgment. This brings us to the concept of toxic positivity, which Dr. Chen describes as one of the most damaging trends in modern mental health culture. Toxic positivity involves the pressure to maintain a positive attitude regardless of circumstances, which creates an impossible standard that nobody can actually meet. When people are told that their attitude determines their reality, or that they just need to choose happiness, it implies that their struggles are somehow their fault, Dr. Chen explains. This creates additional stress because now they're not just dealing with their original problem, they're also dealing with the belief that they're failing at having the right mindset. The impact on authentic emotional processing is profound. When you're constantly trying to reframe negative thoughts or find silver linings, you never actually process the emotions that are trying to give you important information. Dr. Chen emphasizes that emotions exist for a reason. Anxiety often signals that something needs attention, sadness helps us process loss, and anger can motivate necessary changes. When you immediately try to positive think your way out of these emotions, you're essentially ignoring important data about your life, she says. Dr. Chen tells me about Lisa, a nurse who came to therapy because her anxiety was getting worse despite months of positive thinking exercises. Lisa had been dealing with a difficult work situation, but every time she felt stressed or worried about it, she would tell herself to be grateful for having a job at all. She practiced daily affirmations about being strong and capable, and she tried to focus on the positive aspects of her workplace. Lisa felt worse every time she tried to think positive because her brain knew the positive thoughts weren't addressing the real problems she was facing, Dr. Chen recalls. The turning point came when Lisa realized that her positive thinking routine had become another source of pressure and failure. She was spending significant mental energy trying to maintain an optimistic outlook, and when she couldn't sustain it, she felt like she was weak or broken. Lisa described feeling like she was lying to herself multiple times a day, Dr. Chen says. The affirmations felt hollow and fake, but she kept doing them because she thought she was supposed to. This highlights why well-meaning advice from friends and family often makes things worse for people with anxiety. When someone shares a genuine concern or worry, responding with "just think positive" or "everything happens for a reason," essentially dismisses their experience and adds pressure to feel differently than they actually feel. Dr. Chen sees patients who have stopped talking to supportive people in their lives because they're tired of being told to look on the bright side when they're genuinely struggling. The difference between healthy optimism and denial of difficult emotions is something Dr. Chen emphasizes constantly. Healthy optimism involves acknowledging challenges while maintaining confidence in your ability to handle them. It doesn't require pretending problems don't exist or forcing yourself to feel grateful for difficult situations. Denial, on the other hand, involves avoiding or minimizing legitimate concerns, which prevents you from taking appropriate action to address them. The pressure to be grateful all the time becomes exhausting in ways most people don't recognize. Dr. Chen mentions patients who feel guilty for having normal human reactions to stressful situations because they've been conditioned to believe they should always be thankful. I had one patient who felt bad about feeling sad when her dog died because she thought she should be grateful for the years they had together, Dr. Chen says. The pressure to find gratitude in every situation had made her feel like she wasn't allowed to have normal grief reactions. This constant emotional policing becomes another job for an already overloaded brain. Instead of just experiencing emotions and moving through them naturally, people are monitoring their thoughts, evaluating their attitude, and trying to adjust their emotional state to match some external standard of positivity. Dr. Chen describes this as emotional perfectionism, where people become anxious about being anxious, which creates layers of secondary stress that are often worse than the original problem. What actually works better than positive thinking for managing difficult thoughts is something Dr. Chen calls emotional acceptance with value-based action. Instead of trying to change your thoughts or feelings, you acknowledge them as temporary experiences while focusing on actions that align with your deeper values and goals. This approach doesn't require you to feel good about difficult situations, but it helps you respond to them in ways that move your life in a meaningful direction. The evidence-based alternative to positive thinking involves accepting that difficult emotions are part of human experience while choosing actions based on what matters most to you. Rather than trying to think your way into feeling better, you identify what you value most in life and take steps toward those values regardless of how you're feeling in the moment. This approach acknowledges that you can take meaningful action even when you're anxious, sad, or worried, which reduces the additional pressure to fix your emotional state before you can live your life. But Dr. Chen noticed something interesting about the patients who struggled most with this approach. The ones who had the hardest time accepting their emotions and focusing on values were often the same people who seemed to have active social lives and plenty of friends, yet still felt completely isolated and misunderstood. The social connection crisis hidden in plain sight. Dr. Chen has discovered that this isolation creates a specific pattern she calls social hunger. People consume endless social content but never feel satisfied. The paradox is mind-bending when you really think about it. Data shows that people with the highest number of online connections often score lowest on measures of social satisfaction and belonging. Having hundreds of digital connections can actually make loneliness worse, she explains. Your brain knows the difference between genuine connection and performative interaction, even when you consciously think you're being social. The neuroscience reveals something previous generations of psychologists never had to consider. Our brains developed social systems over thousands of years that relied on physical presence, facial expressions, body language, and vocal tones to assess social situations and build trust. Digital communication strips away most of these cues, leaving our nervous systems in a constant state of uncertainty about social interactions. This uncertainty triggers low-level anxiety responses that we might not even consciously notice, but that accumulate over time. Virtual relationships affect our stress response systems differently than in-person connections. When you're interacting with someone digitally, your brain can't fully relax into social safety the way it can with physical presence. There's always a subtle tension because your nervous system is working harder to interpret limited information and fill in missing social cues. Research shows that people's cortisol levels remain elevated during video calls in ways that don't happen during face-to-face conversations. even when the content of the interaction is identical. Dr. Chen tells me about Marcus, a marketing manager who came to therapy because he felt overwhelmed by social situations despite being naturally outgoing. Marcus described feeling lonelier in crowded rooms full of colleagues than when he was home alone watching Netflix. He would go to networking events and office parties, engage in conversations all evening, exchange contact information with multiple people, but drive home feeling completely empty, Dr. Chen recalls. Marcus couldn't understand why being around people made him feel more isolated rather than more connected. The breakthrough came when Marcus started paying attention to the quality of his social interactions rather than just the quantity. He realized that most of his conversations were surface-level exchanges of information rather than genuine emotional connection. People would ask how he was doing, but they expected a brief positive response, not an honest answer. He would share professional updates and receive polite acknowledgement, but nobody was really listening or engaging with what mattered to him. Marcus was surrounded by people, but starving for authentic connection, Dr. Chen explains. This points to why social media connection doesn't satisfy our deep need for belonging. The human brain evolved to form social bonds through shared experiences, mutual vulnerability, and consistent presence over time. Social media interactions are typically brief, curated, and focused on presenting ideal versions of ourselves rather than sharing genuine experiences. Belonging requires being known and accepted for who you really are, including your struggles and imperfections, which is nearly impossible to achieve through digital platforms designed to showcase highlights. The concept of performative socializing has become a dominant feature of how people interact in 2025. Instead of connecting authentically, people are constantly managing their social image across multiple platforms. They craft posts to generate specific responses, curate photos to create certain impressions, and engage with others' content in strategic ways designed to maintain social positioning. Dr. Chen describes this as social labor rather than social connection. People are working so hard to appear socially successful that they don't have energy left for actual relationship building, she explains. This creates a particularly insidious cycle because performative socializing requires emotional energy but doesn't provide emotional nourishment in return. You spend mental resources crafting the perfect response to someone's post, but you don't feel more connected to that person afterward. You invest time in maintaining your online presence, but it doesn't translate into feeling more supported or understood. Patients come to Dr. Chen exhausted from their social media activity, but still feeling fundamentally alone. The impact on authentic relationships is profound because performative socializing trains us to prioritize impression management over genuine expression. People become so accustomed to presenting curated versions of themselves that they lose touch with how to share their real thoughts and feelings. Dr. Chen mentions patients who feel anxious about posting anything that isn't carefully crafted and optimized for maximum positive response. They've forgotten how to just share a genuine moment without calculating how it will be received, she says. There's something almost comical about how awkward real-world social skills have become after years of digital communication. Dr. Chen sees people who can craft witty messages and engaging posts, but struggle with basic in-person conversations. They're accustomed to having time to think of the perfect response, to edit their thoughts before sharing them, and to control the pacing of social interactions. Face-to-face conversations feel unpredictable and demanding by comparison. The phone call anxiety phenomenon has reached levels that would seem absurd to previous generations. People will spend 20 minutes crafting a text message to avoid making a 2-minute phone call. They'll choose email over voice communication, even for urgent matters. This avoidance of real-time interaction prevents people from developing the social resilience that comes from navigating unpredictable conversations and managing social uncertainty in the moment. Individual responses to online spaces vary dramatically, and Dr. Chen has identified patterns in who thrives versus who becomes more anxious in digital social environments. People who maintain strong boundaries between their online and offline identities tend to use social media as a supplement to real-world relationships rather than a replacement. They share authentically without becoming dependent on external validation, and they engage with others' content genuinely rather than strategically. The specific type of social interaction that most effectively reduces overthinking patterns is what Dr. Chen calls presence-based connection. This involves spending unstructured time with people who know and accept you without any agenda or performance pressure.